The smell of burnt ozone hung thick in the air as Commander Valeria Karis surveyed the battlefield. Bodies of the enemy forces lay scattered across the purple-tinted plains of Nexus Prime. Her Artemis battalion had been victorious again, as they always were. The last pocket of resistance, human colonists who refused to acknowledge the rule of her people, had finally been crushed. "Commander," called Myra, her second-in-command, wiping violet blood from her battle axe. "The perimeter is secure. All opposition has been neutralized." Valeria nodded, her silver eyes reflecting the three setting moons. Her tall, muscular frame cast a long shadow as she walked among the fallen. The women of her battalion moved efficiently through the battlefield, confirming kills and collecting weapons. "Any survivors?" Valeria asked, her voice husky from shouting commands during battle. "None that matter," Myra replied. "A few of their females, they've been taken for interrogation and potential integration." This was the way of the Selenians. For generations, they had followed their ancestral code. Male combatants were eliminated without exception, while females were given the choice to join their ranks or face imprisonment. It was harsh but necessary. The history of their world had proven that male aggression led only to destruction and chaos. "Good, prepare to move out by..." Valeria stopped mid-sentence. A slight movement caught her eye from a pile of bodies near a crashed transport vehicle. Drawing her plasma blade, she approached cautiously. A human male lay half-buried under his fallen comrades. Blood, red, so strange compared to the violet of her people, seeped from multiple wounds across his body. His eyes fluttered open as she stood over him, revealing irises of an unusual deep amber color. He was young for a soldier, perhaps in his late 20s by human reckoning. He didn't plead, he didn't beg. Instead, he stared back at her with a peculiar expression that Valeria couldn't quite place. Defiance, acceptance, curiosity. "Commander," Myra called, noticing her distraction. "Is there a problem?" Valeria raised her blade. The protocol was clear. No male survivors. It was the foundation of Selenian dominance, the rule that had kept their society strong while others fell to war and self-destruction. Yet she hesitated. The human's gaze never wavered. "Do what you must," he whispered, his voice barely audible, "but remember my face." Something in his words, in his unflinching acceptance of death, stirred something unexpected within Valeria. In 20 years of command, she had never questioned the protocol. "Commander," Myra pressed, moving closer. Valeria deactivated her blade. "He's as good as dead," she said dismissively. "The wounds are fatal, no need to waste energy." Myra frowned. "Protocol dictates." "I know the protocol," Valeria snapped. "But he'll be dead within the hour. The scavengers will take care of him." She turned away from the man. "Assemble the battalion. We move to the next sector before nightfall." As she strode away, Valeria felt the human's eyes burning into her back. A strange discomfort settled in her chest, not quite regret, not quite concern. Just an unusual sensation that something significant had transpired. She didn't know his name was Adrian Reed. She didn't know he was a combat medic with extensive survival training. She didn't know about the emergency medical pack hidden in his tactical vest. And she certainly didn't know that her single act of inconsistent mercy would return to haunt her in ways she couldn't possibly imagine. Adrian Reed should have died that day on the battlefield of Nexus Prime. By all medical logic, his injuries were catastrophic: 3 plasma burns to his torso, a shattered femur, and significant blood loss. Yet as the 3 moons rose and fell in their celestial dance, he clung stubbornly to life. The emergency med pack in his tactical vest had been his salvation. Auto-injectors of synthetic platelets and regenerative nanites had stabilized the worst of his wounds, giving him precious hours to drag himself into the shelter of a nearby wreckage. There, delirious with pain and fever, he'd activated his final resource, a military-grade stasis patch that plunged him into suspended animation until his body could begin to heal. 3 weeks later, Adrian awoke to a changed world. The Selenian forces had moved on, leaving the battlefield to nature and scavengers. He emerged from stasis weakened but alive, his mind fixated on a single memory. Silver eyes looking down on him, choosing to walk away instead of delivering the killing blow. "Why did you let me live?" he whispered to the empty air as he fashioned a crude crutch from debris. The question haunted him through days of painful recovery and nights filled with fevered dreams of silver eyes. By the second month, Adrian had made contact with other survivors, mostly civilians who had fled into the underground cave systems when the Selenians attacked their settlement. Among them was Dr. Eliza Winters, a xenobiologist who had spent years studying Selenian culture before the war. "You're obsessed with her," Eliza noted one evening as Adrian pored over salvaged tactical data. They had established a makeshift camp in an abandoned mining facility, gathering strength and supplies. "Not with her," Adrian corrected, studying a holographic map showing Selenian patrol routes. "With understanding why they operate as they do, with finding their weakness." Eliza's expression darkened. "The Selenians have ruled this sector for centuries precisely because they have no weakness. Their society eliminates what they consider the source of conflict, male aggression and competition." "Every system has flaws," Adrian argued. "Including theirs, their commander spared me. That alone proves their doctrine isn't absolute." As weeks turned to months, Adrian's obsession transformed into methodology. His medical training gave him insight into Selenian physiology, knowledge he shared with the growing number of refugees who found their way to the mining facility. His military experience helped organize them into functional units, and gradually, scattered survivors became a resistance. The turning point came 6 months after the battle when they intercepted a Selenian scout. Instead of executing her as many wanted, Adrian insisted on communication. "My name is Adrian Reed," he told the captured warrior, meeting her hostile glare without flinching. "I want to speak with others who question Commander Valeria's methods." The scout Karina spat at his feet. "No true Selenian questions the commander." "Then why did she spare me?" Adrian asked quietly. "Why break protocol on the battlefield?" Something flickered in Karina's expression, surprise followed by curiosity. For the first time, Adrian saw uncertainty in Selenian eyes. 3 days later, after countless hours of conversation, Karina made a decision that would change everything. "There are others," she admitted reluctantly. "Women who believe our way has become too rigid, too cruel. They remain loyal to protect themselves, but they question in secret." "Help me reach them," Adrian urged. "Not to destroy your people, but to change what's broken." Karina studied him for a long moment before nodding once. "Perhaps this is why she couldn't kill you. She saw something different." As the first year of his improbable survival came to an end, Adrian stood at the entrance of the mining facility, watching their numbers grow. Humans, alien refugees from other worlds conquered by the Selenians, and now a small but significant number of Selenian deserters, all united by a vision of a world beyond the binary of conqueror and conquered. "We're nearly ready," Eliza said, joining him at the overlook. Adrian nodded, his amber eyes fixed on the distant lights of a Selenian outpost. "Send the message to our contacts within their ranks. It's time Commander Valeria learned the true cost of mercy." Commander Valeria Karis stood motionless before the holographic display, her silver eyes narrowed as she studied the pattern of incidents across her territory. Supply convoys ambushed with surgical precision. Communication relays sabotaged. 3 outposts infiltrated within the past month alone. "It's coordinated," she concluded, addressing the 5 lieutenants gathered in her war chamber. "These aren't random acts of resistance. Someone is orchestrating a campaign against us." Lieutenant Talia, her most trusted advisor and childhood friend, stepped forward. "The pattern suggests insider knowledge. They're predicting our patrol schedules, exploiting our blind spots." "Impossible," declared Myra, her voice sharp with indignation. "No true daughter of Selene would betray her sisters." Valeria remained silent, the unspoken truth hanging in the air. For generations, the Artemis Battalion had enforced order through absolute loyalty and unwavering adherence to protocol. Yet recently, desertions had increased, young warriors vanishing during patrols, veterans requesting transfers then disappearing en route. "Increase security protocols," Valeria ordered finally. "Double authentication on all communications, and I want our supply routes randomized daily." As her lieutenants nodded and departed, Talia lingered behind. "There's something else you should know," she said once they were alone. "Rumors from the border settlements. They speak of a human leading the resistance, a male warrior who should be dead." Valeria's hand instinctively went to the hilt of her plasma blade. An image flashed unbidden in her mind, amber eyes staring up at her from a battlefield, neither pleading nor hateful. Just waiting. Rumors she dismissed, though her voice lacked conviction. Nothing more. Perhaps, Talia conceded, but they say he bears the scars of our weapons, that he speaks our language and knows our ways, that he was left for dead after the Battle of Nexus Prime. The war chamber suddenly felt too small, too confining. Valeria turned away, unwilling to let Talia see the uncertainty in her eyes. Increase patrols in the border sectors. I want these rumors investigated. 30 kilometers away, deep within the labyrinthine tunnels of the old mining network, Adrian Reed watched as Eliza Winters added another marker to their strategic map. Outpost Gamma is vulnerable, she reported. Our contact confirms they've reduced personnel to reinforce the main supply depots. Adrian nodded, studying the holographic overlay that displayed Selenian force distributions across the region. 2 years of gathering intelligence, building alliances, and strategic strikes had transformed their ragtag group of survivors into a formidable resistance. They now numbered over 400, humans, refugees from other worlds, and most crucially, 37 Selenian defectors who provided invaluable insight into their former commander's tactics. We're hurting them, Karina observed, her once-proud Selenian warrior stance now relaxed among those she had once hunted. But Valeria is adapting. The randomized patrol routes have made our recent operations more dangerous. Then we need to accelerate our timeline, Adrian decided. Our next target isn't supplies or communications, it's their authority. He expanded the holographic display, highlighting a structure in the capital district. The Hall of Ancestors, the symbolic heart of Selenian cultural identity and the source of their gender segregation beliefs. His amber eyes gleamed with intensity. We're not going to destroy it. We're going to broadcast the truth about their history from within it. Murmurs of surprise rippled through the command team. Eliza shook her head. That's suicide, Adrian. Security there is impenetrable. Not entirely, Karina interjected. The annual rite of renewal approaches. All battalion commanders will attend, including Valeria. Security will be focused on protecting them, not expecting an infiltration team. It's still too risky, Eliza argued. Adrian's expression hardened. For 2 years, we've played it safe. Strategic strikes, quick retreats, but we're fighting for hearts and minds now, not just territory. He gestured to the Selenian defectors present. They joined us because they began questioning centuries of dogma. How many more might join if they learned the truth? The truth that Dr. Winters had uncovered through years of research. That Selenian society had not always executed male combatants. That their isolationist, female-dominated culture was based on historical manipulation by power-hungry leaders centuries ago. That their ancient traditions were fabricated to maintain control. As the meeting concluded and teams dispersed to prepare, Karina approached Adrian privately. There's something you should know, she said quietly. A message from our newest defector. Commander Valeria has heard rumors about you. She's investigating. Adrian's hand unconsciously moved to the scars on his chest, permanent reminders of the day he should have died. Good, he said softly. It's time she remembered my face. Unknown to either of them, at that very moment, Talia was entering Valeria's private quarters with information that would shatter the commander's world. Evidence of a traitor within her inner circle. Evidence that would lead directly back to Talia herself. The gathering storm was about to break. The ancient ceremonial dagger felt unnaturally heavy in Valeria's hand as she stared at the evidence spread across her quarters. Data crystals, unauthorized transmission logs, security codes that had been compromised from within her inner circle. How long, she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Talia stood before her, shoulders straight, her expression a complex mixture of defiance and regret. 8 months since my first contact with them, 14 since I began questioning our ways. Outside, the 3 moons of Nexus Prime cast intersecting shadows through the high windows, creating patterns that seemed to shift and change with each passing moment, much like the foundations of Valeria's world. You were my sister in all but blood, Valeria said, rising from her seat. The ceremonial dagger glinted in the moonlight. We trained together, bled together, led our sisters to victory together, and you betrayed everything we stand for. I betrayed nothing that deserves loyalty, Talia replied, making no move to defend herself, though she surely knew the penalty for treason. Our society is built on lies, Valeria. Dr. Winters has found evidence in the ancient archives, records that were deliberately altered. The purge of males was never our ancestral way. It was instituted only 3 centuries ago during the faction wars. Valeria circled her lieutenant slowly. Convenient claims from your human allies. Did they seduce you with pretty words and promises, or was it something more? Primitive. The implication hung in the air between them. A flash of anger crossed Talia's face. Is that what you believe, that I would betray my oath for base desires? She shook her head. You're still blind, even after your own actions contradicted everything you claim to believe. What are you talking about? The human, the one you spared at Nexus Prime, Adrian Reed. The name struck Valeria like a physical blow. For 3 years, she had pushed the memory of those amber eyes away, dismissing her moment of mercy as an insignificant aberration. He leads them now, Talia continued. The man you couldn't bring yourself to kill has united everyone your battalion has oppressed, and he did it not through force or fear, but through something our society has forgotten, choice. Valeria's grip tightened on the dagger. You speak of choice while betraying your sisters, while undermining the security of those who trusted you. I made my choice, Talia answered calmly. Just as you did that day on the battlefield, the difference is I've embraced mine. For a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, the two warriors stood facing each other, one bound by tradition and duty, the other by a newfound conviction. Then Valeria's arm moved in a blur, the ceremonial dagger flashing through the air. It embedded itself in the wall beside Talia's head. Go, Valeria whispered, her silver eyes shimmering with uncharacteristic moisture. Go before I remember my duty. Talia hesitated, clearly stunned. Valeria. G.O., the commander roared. But know this, when your human leader comes for me, as he surely will, I will not show mercy a second time. As the door closed behind her former lieutenant, Valeria activated her command console. Security Protocol Omega, she ordered. The battalion is compromised, trust no one. Miles away, within the Resistance's underground headquarters, alarm klaxons shattered the pre-dawn quiet. Adrian rushed into the command center to find Eliza and Karina already reviewing incoming data. Talia's cover is blown, Eliza reported grimly. Valeria has initiated a full security lockdown. All battalion outposts are on high alert. Adrian processed this information with the calm efficiency that had become his hallmark. Then our timetable just accelerated. The infiltration of the Hall of Ancestors is now impossible, Karina interrupted, shaking her head. Security will be tripled. No, came a new voice from the entrance. Talia stood there, exhausted but resolute after her escape. Not impossible, just different. She approached the command table. Valeria knows about you now, Adrian. She knows you lead us, and she's afraid. Adrian's amber eyes narrowed. Afraid, the commander I faced showed no fear. Not of dying, Talia clarified. She fears being wrong. For her entire life, she has believed in the righteousness of our ways. Your existence, a male leader who commands through respect rather than fear, threatens everything she built her identity upon. The command center fell silent as Adrian considered this. Finally, he nodded decisively. Then we don't infiltrate the hall, we challenge her directly. He turned to the strategic display. Her fortress, her rules, her final stand. That's exactly what she's preparing for, Eliza warned. I know, Adrian replied, his scarred hand tracing the outline of the battalion headquarters on the display. But she's expecting an army. A grim smile touched his lips. What she'll get is a choice. As preparations began for what would surely be their most dangerous operation yet, Talia approached Adrian privately. There's something you should know, she said quietly. When I revealed my betrayal, she had every right to execute me on the spot. Instead, she let me go. Adrian's expression softened with understanding. Then perhaps there's hope for her yet. Perhaps, Talia agreed. But remember, a cornered predator is most dangerous when it begins to doubt its own nature. In her fortress, Commander Valeria Karis prepared for war as she had countless times before. But for the first time in her decorated career, an unfamiliar sensation gnawed at her resolve. Doubt. Dawn broke over Valeria's fortress with cruel brilliance, 3 suns rising in sequence to bathe the metallic spires in copper, then gold, then blinding white. For 6 days, her remaining loyal forces had prepared for the inevitable assault. Defense grids fortified, weapons primed, every warrior ready to defend their way of life to the death. Yet as Valeria stood on the command balcony, overlooking the vast plain beyond her citadel, what she saw defied all tactical expectations. A single figure approached the main gate, alone, unarmed. "Magnify," she ordered, and the observation screen zoomed in to reveal a face that had haunted her thoughts for 3 years. Adrian Reed walked steadily toward the fortress, his gait slightly uneven from old injuries but his posture unbowed. No armor protected his body, no weapon hung at his side, just a simple communication device in his hand. "Commander," came Myra's urgent voice, "our sensors detect resistance forces massing beyond the eastern ridge. This could be a diversion." Valeria didn't respond immediately, her silver eyes fixed on the solitary figure. "What game are you playing?" she murmured. The communication panel beside her chimed. An incoming transmission. "This is Adrian Reed," came the calm voice she remembered from the battlefield, though stronger now, tempered by years of survival and purpose. "I request parley with Commander Valeria Karis, alone." Myra scoffed. "A trap, obviously." "Obviously," Valeria agreed, yet something about the directness of the approach intrigued her. After a moment's consideration, she activated her comm. "Approach the south entrance. You will be scanned for weapons and devices, any sign of treachery, and my forces will open fire on your hidden allies." 20 minutes later, in the austere confines of her private war room, Valeria faced the man whose life she had spared, the man who had nearly dismantled her battalion through years of strategic resistance. "You should be dead," she said by way of greeting. A faint smile touched Adrian's lips. "Many times over, yet here we stand." She circled him slowly, assessing. The plasma burns she had inflicted had left dramatic scars across his torso, visible even through his simple clothing. His amber eyes followed her movement with alert patience. "Why come alone?" she demanded. "Your forces outnumber my loyalists now. Your Selenian defectors know our defensive protocols. You could have attacked directly." "More bloodshed won't heal this world," Adrian replied. "I came to offer you the same thing you once offered me." Valeria's eyes narrowed. "I offered you nothing." "You offered me choice," he corrected. "When protocol demanded my execution, you chose differently. That single act created this." He gestured to encompass everything his resistance had become. "A mistake I won't repeat," Valeria said coldly, her hand moving to her plasma blade. Adrian made no move to defend himself. "Before you correct that error, there's something you should see." He nodded toward the communication panel. "A transmission from the sealed archives. Authorization code, Artemis Prime Historical." Against her better judgment, Valeria activated the panel. The holographic display flickered to life, showing ancient recordings from the early days of Selenian settlement. Documents and testimony that contradicted everything she had been taught about her people's history. "Fabrications," she insisted, though uncertainty crept into her voice. "The original records, preserved by the first Archivist Council before the historical purge," Adrian countered. "Your society wasn't always what it became. The gender segregation, the male execution protocols, these were instituted during a power struggle 3 centuries ago. Your ancestors rewrote history to consolidate control." As the evidence mounted on the display, Valeria felt a sensation she had never experienced in battle, the disorientation of having the ground shift beneath her feet. "Even if this were true," she said finally, her voice deliberately steady, "what do you propose? That 3 centuries of order be dismantled overnight? That we simply forget the stability our ways have provided?" "Not forgotten," Adrian said. "Evolved." He moved closer, fearless despite her weapon. "Your battalion fractures from within not because of external pressure, but because your warriors themselves question the necessity of such absolutes. They follow you, Valeria, not the doctrine. They always have." A distant explosion rocked the fortress. Alarms blared. The communication panel lit up with urgent reports of attacks on the perimeter. "It seems your allies grew impatient with diplomacy," Valeria observed, drawing her blade in a fluid motion. Adrian shook his head. "Not my order. There are factions within the resistance just as there are within your battalion, those who believe only force will bring change." Another explosion, closer this time. The war room trembled. "What would you have me do?" Valeria demanded, the blade humming with lethal energy between them. Surrender everything I've fought for, everything I am. I would have you lead, Adrian answered simply. Not as the enforcer of outdated dogma, but as the commander who can guide your people toward a future beyond these endless cycles of conquest and resistance. For a moment that seemed suspended in time, they stood at an impasse, warrior and survivor, captor and catalyst. Then the doors to the war room burst open as Myra rushed in, weapon raised. Commander, we're breached on multiple levels. Her eyes widened at the sight of Adrian standing unrestrained. Without hesitation, she swung her weapon toward him. No, Valeria shouted, moving with battle-honed reflexes. Her plasma blade intercepted Myra's shot, deflecting it harmlessly into the wall. Stand down, Lieutenant. Myra's expression transformed from surprise to shocked betrayal. You protect him, after everything his kind has done. I protect the future of our people, Valeria answered, her decision crystallizing in that moment of action. A future that requires change. What followed would be remembered in the histories of Nexus Prime as the day of reconciliation. Commander Valeria Karis, standing before her assembled battalion and the gathered resistance forces, laid down her plasma blade and declared an end to the protocols that had divided their world for centuries. Not all accepted this new path. Many warriors departed, seeking to establish colonies that maintained the old ways. Others from both sides struggled with ancient prejudices and fresh wounds, but the foundations had been laid for something new. 6 months later, Adrian found Valeria atop the observation tower of the former fortress, now transformed into the first integrated settlement on Nexus Prime. The eastern provinces have ratified the new charter, he reported, joining her at the railing. That makes 7 territories now aligned with the coalition. Valeria nodded, her silver eyes reflecting the setting moons. And 3 still resistant. Progress comes in increments, it seems. A comfortable silence settled between them, former enemies bound now by a shared vision and the strange symmetry of their choices. Her mercy had created him as a leader. His challenge had transformed her as a reformer. Do you ever regret it? Adrian asked after a while, sparing me that day. Valeria considered the question, watching as the first stars appeared in the darkening sky. I regretted it every day for 3 years, she admitted, until the moment I understood why I did it. And why was that? She turned to face him fully, her expression softened from the hardened commander she had once been. Because even then, some part of me knew what you helped me realize later. That strength isn't found in inflexible doctrine or perfect obedience. It's found in the courage to question, to adapt, to choose differently when the moment demands it. As the 3 moons of Nexus Prime aligned in their rare celestial convergence, casting their combined light over the transformed landscape, Valeria extended her hand. Adrian took it without hesitation, their fingers intertwining, a gesture that would once have been forbidden, now a symbol of their world's fragile but growing unity. We have a long road ahead, she said quietly. Adrian nodded, his amber eyes meeting her silver ones. But for the first time, it's when we walk together.